Long forgotten until its discovery in the 1700s, the ancient Book of Enoch shook the foundation of the early Christian church that found it. Everyone who encountered it was left shaking in terror, including the priests in power. The secret knowledge of the book sent people on different expeditions that drove them mad, and those who maintained their sanity were never the same again. What is the content of this book? How does Joe Rogan explain it? And how did it drive people mad? Strap in, as we unravel the 2,000-year-old Bible that revealed terrifying knowledge about the human race. Before we delve into the details, we need to understand some important content about the Book of Enoch. The ancient Book of Enoch was found in Abyssinia, Ethiopia, in 1773. It is also known as the Ethiopic Book of Enoch's pseudepigraphical work. Pseudepigrapha refers to a writing attributed to someone who did not actually author it. In other words, a forgery. The true author wrote the book under another name, usually to lend the writing an authority it originally lacked. According to Joe Rogan, a well-known on-air personality, the Book of Enoch contains essential truths that were suppressed by politics and humanity's struggle for power. Joe Rogan has often expressed his solidarity with the Book of Enoch, inviting many scientists to his podcast to discuss it. The books of Enoch are part of a larger pseudepigraphal group, which includes other books supposedly written by biblical figures, such as the Life of Adam and Eve, the Treatise of Shem, and the Testament of the 12 Patriarchs. The Book of Enoch serves as substantial proof that there was not just one form of Judaism practiced in Palestine during the Second Temple period, but multiple sects and apocalyptic Christianity emerged. The Book of Enoch is an Old Testament book that recounts events written long before Jesus was born. The original manuscript of this ancient text disappeared at the end of the 4th century. Enoch has been found in Greek, Latin, Syriac, and since the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls, in Aramaic. Who found the Book of Enoch, and why was it hidden? Let's dive further into the story. The authorship of the Book of Enoch is credited to Enoch, the son of JRE. However, this book was written many years after his death, so it doesn't exactly correlate. This brings us to the man said to have found the devil, James Bruce. When renowned Scottish explorer and scholar James Bruce set out to find a book he hoped would preserve the secrets of ancient rites, he instead returned with an ancient Ethiopian depiction of the origin of the very source of evil itself, the devil. Denounced by early church fathers and preserved solely in fragments within the ancient Ethiopian language of Guizi, the Book of Enoch offers a tale that no establishment of the time wanted to see credited. Rooted in esoteric Jewish thought, the Book of Enoch suggests that the hated and feared figure of the devil may once have been humanity's ally and mentor. During a period when Britain was engaged in long territorial conflicts with Spain, James Bruce traveled extensively, studying the native cultures and artifacts of the regions he visited. He served as British consul in Algiers for several years, pursuing his interests in ancient relics and ruins. It is possible that Bruce first learned of the significance of the missing Book of Enoch during this time. After his role in Algiers, Bruce embarked on a quest to find the Blue Nile, the true Nile of the ancients. However, Bruce's journey also had a more arcane purpose, one deeply tied to the Western Christian tradition and the mythology of its central antagonist. Traveling through Alexandria, Thebes, and Cairo, Bruce eventually arrived in the Ethiopian capital of Gondar in 1770. From Gondar, he journeyed through Abyssinia in search of the Blue Nile while also seeking out the Book of Enoch. As a member of the Canongate Kilwinning Masonic Lodge, Bruce's study of the ancient Ethiopian language, Guizi, and his exploration of a region noted for its hostility towards outsiders are questions that only the ancient text of Enoch can answer. Equated with the Egyptian deity Thoth by some Freemasons, Enoch was believed to be the founder of written language. It is thought that part of James Bruce's motivation in uncovering the ancient text was due to this belief, that Enoch was, in some way, the author of secrets that Masons sought to uncover. Believed to be the true inheritors, finding Enoch's words would validate their own beliefs. Instead, Bruce found himself confronted with a notion far more perplexing. While we have become accustomed to the devil as the fall guy for all that is bad in the world, he is a convenient excuse for the theological argument of why God always allows evil to happen. What we see in the Book of Enoch is that the original story contained no antagonist other than God himself. It is not surprising then that the Book of Enoch, with its narrative implying that the source of wisdom originated from those whom the Hebrew deity attempted to destroy during the flood, never found a place in canonized Christianity and was left unpublished during Bruce's lifetime. To have made public such a story would have equated the development of a culture, of creativity, not with Christ and the institution of the Church, but rather with Azazel and the angels who turned away from God. Such an idea was anathema to both the religious and social climate of the time. This tale would have caused massive unrest of the kind that few authorities were willing to entertain. As such, despite the richness of its imagery, the story of the Book of Enoch continues to remain but a footnote in histories detailing the life and times of this most inspiring of Scottish adventurers. The Dead Sea Scrolls. The Book of Enoch was also rediscovered in the Judean cave between 1946 and 1947 by some Bedouin boys tending their sheep near the cave. One of the young boys threw a rock into a cliff opening and was surprised to hear a shattering sound. Out of curiosity, he and his friends entered the cave and found several large clay jars, 7 of which contained leather and papyrus scrolls. The Judean cave is near the ancient settlement of Qumran, located on the northwest coast of the Dead Sea, currently known as the West Bank. The scrolls were purchased by antiquity merchants and scholars, who found the texts to be over 2,000 years old. Many other scroll fragments were also found. The content of the books. Several clerical scholars have dismissed the book, claiming it contains revelations not divinely inspired by God. The ancient books of Enoch were forbidden from the Bible for unveiling profound truths about the world's creation. The books record a list of sensual fallen angels, violent giants, strange cosmological facts, and other mystical revelations yet to be confirmed by Bible scholars. It is believed that the stories of Enoch reflect many features of Babylonian mythology. This book, credited to Enoch, has also been confirmed as a compilation of works that are mostly apolitical. Joe Rogan argues against this, asserting that while the story contains Babylonian myths, these same myths provide answers to many of the world's scientific wonders. He questions why, if the book is acknowledged by Christians, it is still considered a fallacy. Enoch, the credited writer, is often featured in the book and is portrayed as stepping into the role of the prophesied Messiah long before the time of Jesus. Some view him as a man who ascended to heaven to learn the secrets of the end times. To others, he is the product of what could be described as ancient fanfiction. The story of Enoch takes place between those of the Garden of Eden and the Great Flood, both found in the book of Genesis. Enoch is mentioned in the traditional Bible as being the 7th of the 10 pre-flood patriarchs in Adam's line. Despite taking place so early in the timeline, the book begins with Enoch's ominous description of the end times, detailing earth being torn apart and a final judgment of sinful men. We are also introduced to mysterious creatures called the Watchers. In the beginning, this group of 200 angels was tasked with observing history, but they began lusting after human women and descended to earth to take them as wives. This is where the story picks up speed, almost reading like a prologue from The Lord of the Rings. The wives of the Watchers bore giants that devoured everything in their path. When resources ran out, they began eating people. Growing up, many wondered where Goliath and other biblical giants came from, given that they are always portrayed in a villainous light. A perverted mix of angels and humans seems to provide as good an answer as any. As these giants ravaged the lands, the Watchers taught their wives charms, spells, and the craft of herbology, likely continuing the sexist depictions of women as deceivers, which began with the stories of Eve and Lilith. Meanwhile, the Watchers gifted mortal men with the knowledge of metallurgy, fashioning weapons and armor, and soon after, the men began warring with one another. The Watchers saw how badly they had messed things up and went tattling on one another to God. They decided to pin all the blame on one of their own named Azazel, who is often depicted with goat-like features, giving us the term scapegoat. Fun fact. The passage of time at this point in the story is rather confusing. In response to the warring men, destructive giants, and crafty women, God prepared to wipe the slate clean. If at first, you don't succeed, kill everyone. That is the phrase, right? Maybe I got that wrong. Noah is given a divine warning about the imminent flooding of the planet and sets to work on an ark. The plot jolts forward with Enoch suddenly appearing in heaven with little to no lead-up. God immediately charges him with dealing out damnation to the Watchers who would spend the rest of eternity as demons. He also seemingly creates purgatory to collect the souls of all people until Judgment Day. For many passages after this, God takes Enoch on quite the trip, giving him visions of the end of time. If you are familiar with the books of Daniel and Revelation, you will recognize a lot of the imagery here. It's just odd to have it shown so early on as opposed to the end of the Bible as many of us are used to. God and Enoch start calling people out, naming names and telling them they'll receive no mercy. God empowers Enoch, turning him into the leader of the archangels named Metatron. The Book of Enoch is a series of important stories. One part discusses angels, a special tree, Jerusalem, and the universe. But the most interesting part is about fallen angels, who did intimate things with human women and they had giant children called Nephilim. The angels also taught humans advanced stuff leading to a big flood and destruction. Nephilim means fallen ones. People see them as big guys like giants. This idea comes from the first book of Enoch, a special Jewish book. But there's a debate. Some think their size is because they're supernatural, while others say it's not right to think angels or demons can have babies with humans. Another idea is that the Nephilim were just regular people who went off the good path. Some say the sons of God were from Seth, a good guy from Adam's family, and the Nephilim were his family who turned away from God. The Book of Enoch is further divided into 5 other books: the Book of Watchers, the Book of Parables, the Astronomical Book, the Dream Vision, and the Epistles of Enoch. This book has a total of 100 chapters. The Book of Watchers, Strange Beings and Hybrids. One of the most prominent figures in the Book of Enoch are the Watchers. Angelic beings described as being both the sons of God and the sons of heaven in chapter 7. Many believe that the Watchers referred to as the Grigori in Enoch 2 were angels who watched over the human race and would serve as the earthly guides for the very first humans. They were tasked with the observation of human development but were restricted from interfering with mankind regardless of how compelled they felt to do so. Enoch tells in chapter 7 that humans and women had multiplied and that the daughters of men were beautiful and elegant. It's understood that their beauty was so great that they caught the attention of the Watchers, these sons of God if you will. The Watchers conversed with each other in this chapter and decided to take the women for themselves, impregnating them with their seed. This goes against the intended purpose of just watching, directly interfering with the life of mankind. The leader of these angels, known as Samjaza, sometimes pronounced as Samiaza, tells the Watchers that they should reconsider their choice and that it would be him who suffered for such a crime against God. However, the other angels wear him down and tell him that together, they will face the punishment and that they will each accept responsibility for any repercussions. It's noted that in total there were 200 of them and together, they descended upon earth to take the women as their wives. The Book of Enoch even named the prefix of the Watchers here, each of whom would teach the mortal women sorcery, incantations, and the dividing of roots. What's implied here is that the Watchers divulged information about the heavens and life that God had not intended for man to know. And so by doing this, they not only betrayed God by copulating with his creations but also by corrupting them with knowledge that was not meant for them. The women then gave birth to children of the Watchers, and what they spawned was essentially a hybrid of angels and humans, the Nephilim as they are sometimes called. There's some debate as to what the Nephilim are, but when we look at Genesis 6, 1-4, it tells us that the Nephilim were on the earth in those days and also afterward when the sons of God, which we might say are the Watchers, went to the daughters of men and had children with them. The Nephilim are also described as heroes of old and men of renown. Many people, including Joe Rogan himself, have implied that the coming of these Watchers down here is the text as a single paragraph without skipping any words. In Enoch, the offspring of the women are known as giants, and these giants began to consume all that men had built. The giants of Nephilim then began to kill men. When they were tired of that, they began to kill each other. During this chaos, we learn in chapter 8 about an entity known as Azazel, who is presumed to be a Watcher. Azazel teaches man the use of swords, knives, and warfare, as well as the secrets of heaven, incantations, and sorcery. He also teaches man how to use paint, stones, and dyes so that they can manipulate the world and alter it. In chapter 8, we also learn that Azazel's acts caused impiety to increase. Fornication multiplied, and these transgressions corrupted mankind. The rest of the chapter reveals that other Watchers taught mankind astrology, science, and astronomy, which led to destruction. The cries of men reached heaven. In chapter 9, archangels Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel look down from heaven and realize what is happening on earth. They go before God and blame Azazel, stating that he taught every form of iniquity on earth and disclosed all the secret things done in the heavens. They also blame Samjaza, saying he taught sorcery and copulated with women, creating ungodly giants. The archangels ask God what should be done to bring restoration to the earth. In chapter 10, God sends Uriel to seek Noah, the son of Lamech, and tells him to conceal himself, explaining that a flood will destroy everything on earth. Uriel is instructed to tell Noah how to escape the flood, as his seed will remain on earth. God tells Archangel Raphael to bind Azazel and cast him into the darkness by opening a desert in Dudiel, a region of the underworld. The Book of Parables is unique in that no fragments have been found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. The books of Enoch have traditionally been used by the Beta Israel community, and it is likely that the Book of Parables was part of their collection before 200 BC. Their primary holy book, the Orit, is based on an early Greek version of the Septuagint from between 225 and 200 BC, which had only 8 books. After 200 BC, additional books were translated by the Library of Alexandria, so if they left Egypt after 200 BC, they would have had a larger collection of holy books. The origin of the Book of Parables is widely debated, with scholars often ignoring its history within the Beta Israel community and instead claiming it was a Christian-era text written between 50 and 200 AD. There are several reasons for this assumption, though the text is not Christian, but rather, these evidences were manufactured by translators who used Christian terminology. An example is the phrase Son of Man, often seen as a reference to Jesus Christ. Simply reading the text shows it has nothing to do with Christ. Though it can be seen as prophetic, it was foretelling Noah's flood, not the Messiah's coming, unlike most messianic Jewish works. The person referenced as the Son of Man is likely Seth, the patriarch of the humans who survived the flood. The Hebrew Ben Adam, translated as Son of Man, also means Son of Adam, which Seth is introduced as in the opening lines. After a brief genealogical introduction in chapter 37, Enoch is given 3 parables, not in the same sense as Jesus's parables, but more like oracles. Chapters 38 to 44 concern judgment, 45 to 57 address those who deny the name of the Lord, and 58 to 59 discuss the fate of the elect. The last 2 chapters add legendary elements to Enoch's translation. The first parable focuses on impending judgment from the perspective of the righteous and the unrighteous. Chapter 38 begins with the expectation that the righteous will appear, and the sinner will be judged. The righteous one will appear before the community of the righteous to lead this judgment. For those who denied the name of the Lord, it would be better if they had never been born. This is said of the one who betrays. In Mark chapter 14, verse 2, Jesus speaks, and this theme is also found in later Ezra literature when describing those facing torment in Hades. This time of judgment is when the secrets of the righteous one will be revealed, and all the kings of the earth will perish. In chapter 39, Enoch receives the books of zeal and wrath, as well as the books of haste and whirlwind. Verses 3 to 8 describe Enoch's experience of being swept up in a whirlwind from earth into heaven, where he saw the dwelling places of the righteous among the angels. Under the wings of the Lord of spirits, the righteous will praise God forever. In verse 6, Enoch sees the elect one of righteousness and faith, presumably the same righteous one from chapter 38, verse 3, and responds with praise to this vision. Enoch then witnesses a vision of countless angels in chapter 40, including 4 angels who never slumber. Like the imagery in Revelation 4 and 5, there are 4 figures standing at the sides of the Lord of spirits, surrounded by an innumerable crowd of beings in God's presence. Among these are Michael, the merciful and forbearing, Raphael, responsible for diseases and wounds, Gabriel, in charge of all power and strength, and Phanuel, who oversees those with hope for eternal life. In chapter 41, Enoch is introduced to the secrets of heaven, including how kingdoms break apart and how human actions are weighed. He also sees cosmic wonders like the sun, moon, and the storehouses of the universe, which no one can hinder. Chapter 42 continues with poetic imagery, where wisdom, personified, seeks a place among humans but eventually returns to dwell with the angels. The next 2 chapters describe more cosmic mysteries, such as lightning and the names of the stars. Chapters 72 to 82 are known as the Astronomical Book, a discourse on celestial bodies with the goal of calculating the length of a year. In chapter 81, Enoch is instructed to read from the tablets of heaven and share the knowledge with his son Methuselah. These books predict what will happen to all of humanity, though based on astrological principles. Enoch passes this information to his son in chapter 82, where it's emphasized that the true astronomical year is 364 days. This section of the first Enoch is somewhat esoteric and doesn't directly relate to New Testament studies, but it addresses an important issue for first-century Jews, the correct length of the year and its implications for proper worship. The first Enoch supports a 364-day calendar, as opposed to a 360-day one, a point of contention in the Qumran community, who saw the incorrect observance of festivals like Passover as sinful. This may explain the popularity of the book at Qumran. The Book of Dreams and Visions likely retells world history from the perspective of sheep, representing the Israelites, contending with Egyptian wolves, Philistine dogs, Babylonian lions, and Persian eagles. This part continues the astronomical book's narrative, though much of it likely dates to the early Persian era. The first 6 chapters seem connected to the astronomical book, including a vision of the sky collapsing and a flood covering the earth, matching Noah's flood description in the earlier texts. The final chapters of the first Enoch are fragments of other writings, with chapters 106 and 107 narrating the birth of Noah, who is depicted as godlike with white skin, red hair, glowing eyes, and the ability to speak to the Lord immediately after birth. His father Lamech is naturally distressed by this extraordinary child and seeks answers. His father Methuselah sought advice and, in turn, sent him to Enoch, who predicted the flood as a judgment for sin and named the boy Noah. Enoch also foretold that Noah would be the remnant for Lamech in the oppression to come. These predictions were confirmed because they were written on heavenly tablets. Katie Williams, in a podcast session with the Rogan Experience, expressed frustration as a black person that they weren't included more in the Bible until he discovered the lost book of the Bible. He suggested that the removal of the Book of Enoch was propaganda by the early white fathers of the religion to dominate black people, even in the church. According to Joe Rogan's theory, the only people in the Bible who weren't black were the Romans, which is why Noah, being albino in the Book of Enoch, is significant, as he was surrounded by black people. Thank you for watching. Check out another interesting video by clicking on the link appearing on your screen right now. See you on the other side.